Judie Tzuke is an English singer-songwriter. She is best known for her 1979 hit Stay With Me Till Dawn, which reached number 16 on the UK singles chart. Life and career. Early life. Tzuke's family relocated from Poland to England in the 1920s, and changed their surname from Tzuke to Myers. Her mother, Jean Silverside, was a television actress, and her father, Sefton Myers, was a successful property developer who also managed artists and singers, most notably Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice during the writing of Jesus Christ Superstar. When Tzuke embarked on her singing career, she decided to reclaim the family's Polish name as her stage name. Educated in the visual arts, performing arts, and music, Tzuke performed in folk clubs from the age of 15. Her meeting with Mike Paxman in 1975 was a turning point, and they began to collaborate. Under the name Tzuke and Paxo, they eventually secured a recording contract, and the duo released a single, These Are the Laws, produced by Tony Visconti. Early success. Tzuke's career as a solo artist began in 1977, when she signed to Elton John's label the Rocket Record Company. Her first single was on Rocket, For You, released in 1978. Her first major success, Stay With Me Till Dawn, was released in 1979. The track, which was co-written with Mike Paxman, became a top 20 hit in the UK in the summer of 1979 and a top 10 hit in Australia, and was featured on Tzuke's 1979 debut album, Welcome to the Cruise, which was also a top 20 hit. In 2002, Stay With Me Till Dawn was chosen by the British public in a poll of the 50 Best British Songs 1952 2002. The song was also sampled by Milo in the song Need You Tonight, which is taken from his 2004 album Destroy Rock and Roll. Tzuke's second album, Sportscar, charted higher than her debut album and contained one single, Living on the Coast, which failed to chart. Both albums were certified gold by the British phonographic industry in 1981. Tzuke became Elton John's support act for his North American tour, and went on to release one more album on Rocket, I Am the Phoenix, which also made the UK top 20. 1982-1995. In 1982, Tzuke signed to Chrysalis Records and released her fourth album, Shoot the Moon. Although the album reached the UK top 20, it was Tzuke's last album to do so. 3 singles were taken from the album, but none were chart hits. Tzuke completed a 57-day tour of the UK, culminating as the headline act at that year's Glastonbury Festival. The performance was recorded for a TV special by ITV. Several performances from the tour were recorded and released at the end of 1982 as a double album, Road Noise, the official bootleg. In 1983, Rocket issued a compilation album, The Best of Judie Tzuke, and released the track Black Furs as a single. September 1983 saw the release of Tzuke's fifth studio album, Ritmo. The album was somewhat of a departure from her previous work, with a much more electronic feel. The single Genino preceded the album and had radio airplay, but did not chart. An edit and extended remix of the track were issued on 7" and 12 single formats. The subsequent single, How Do I Feel, did not fare any better, and the album itself peaked at number 26 in the UK. Neither the album or singles were released internationally. During autumn 1983, Tzuke toured a series of larger venues. After 2 albums, Tzuke left Chrysalis Records. Wanting to take greater control of her work, she signed with a small independent Legacy Records for the release of her next album. A new single, You, was released in October 1984. A cover of a lesser-known Marvin Gaye track, her version turned a rather sedate piece into a grinding electro production. It peaked at number 92 in the UK, and several different versions of the track were released on 7" and 12 formats. In March 1985, I'll Be the One was issued as a new single from Tzuke's forthcoming 6th album, The Cat Is Out, which was mainly recorded at her home studio and released in June 1985. The single peaked at number 97, while the album peaked at number 35 on the UK album chart. A third single, Love Like Fire, was released shortly afterwards, again with several versions on 7 and 12 formats, though this failed to chart. September 1985 saw a fourth single from the album, This Side of Heaven, which coincided with Tzuke's national concert tour, although this too failed to chart. The show at Fairfield Halls in Croydon was recorded for a television special which, several years later, was issued as a CD-DVD release. Following the muted reception of The Cat Is Out, Tzuke signed with another major label, Polydor Records, in 1987. She began working on her seventh album, though took some time off in June 1987 when she gave birth to her daughter, Bailey. However, the release of the album was delayed further after Polydor first requested that Tzuke work with a producer of their choice rather than with her usual team. Polydor later agreed to allow Tzuke to re-record the entire album with her own team of Paul Muggleton and Mike Paxman. The album, Turning Stones, was released in April 1989, peaking at number 57 in the UK album chart. It was preceded by the single We'll Go Dreaming, which had peaked at number 96 several weeks earlier. Further problems arose between Tzuke and Polydor which led to the last-minute cancellation of her 1989 tour, enraging fans who had turned up to venues. She apologized to fans, and when she appeared as a guest on Radio 1's Friday evening record review show Roundtable. In 1990, she switched to Columbia Records. In August, she released a new single, a cover version of the Beach Boys' classic God Only Knows. Despite the single being issued in various formats and a video being made, the song failed to gain chart success. A limited promo 12 inches was issued of a remix made by DJ Judge Jules. The song also featured in an ITV documentary series about recording techniques, where Tzuke and her producers Mike Paxman and Paul Muggleton showed how the song had been constructed using samples of her voice which were transposed into a synthesizer range. Her eighth album, Left Hand Talking, was released by Columbia in May 1991. Promotion for the album had begun in March when a 3-track promo had been issued widely to independent record stores, and Tzuke made 2 live performances at London's Shaw Theatre in April. These performances were the first time neither Muggleton, Paxman or Bob Noble were part of her live band. Outlaws was released as a single by Columbia in June 1991, but neither the album nor single made an impact upon the charts despite Radio 1 DJ Richard Skinner making Outlaws his record of the week on his Saturday afternoon show. Her tenure with Columbia ended after only one album. Tzuke signed with another small independent label for the release of her 9th album, Wonderland, which was released in September 1992 by Essential Records. 2 singles from the album, Wonderland, and Fly, were performed on the BBC One lunchtime programme Pebble Mill at 1 in November 1992, after Tzuke has performed a concert tour of smaller venues in October and November. Neither the album nor singles charted, despite featuring the talents of Brian May from Queen and Nigel Kennedy on violin. She stated in a later interview that Wonderland was the album she felt most proud of as a songwriter. August 1995 saw the release of 2 albums. The BBC issued its recording of Tzuke's Radio 1 in concert performance from 1981, and Polygram issued a compilation album entitled Stay With Me Till Dawn which drew on Tzuke's first 3 albums released on Rocket Records with tracks from the Turning Stones album on Polydor Records. The album included 4 single remixes which had not previously been available on CD. 1996 present equals, Tzuke released her 10th studio album, Under the Angels, in October 1996 on her own label Big Moon Records. The album was previewed by 2 dates at London's Jazz Café in August 1996 and in Dublin in October that year. 3 tours to promote the album, playing at over 30 venues, took place in January, February, June and November 1997. Recordings from the tour culminated in another live album, Over the Moon. In 1998, Tzuke released her 11th studio album, Secret Agent, again on her own label, Big Moon. Bob Harris of BBC Radio 2 included one of the album's tracks, Tonight, on his compilation CD Bob Harris Presents. In 2000, Tzuke gained the rights to her first 3 albums recorded for Rocket Records and reissued them on CD via Big Moon. She named her tour later that year the Phoenix Tour, a reference to her last Rocket Records album, I Am the Phoenix. Following this came a new live album, 6 Days Before the Flood, and a new studio album, Queen's Secret Keeper. Another live album, Drive Live, was released in 2002. Tzuke then released an album of covers, The Beauty of Hindsight, in September 2003. A self-promoted tour in September ended with 2 nights at London's Bush Hall. 2 dates in March 2004 were played at London's Cabot Hall in Canary Wharf as part of the Docklands Music Festival, and the following night at Dartford's Mick Jagger Centre, previewing 2 new tracks, Euro Addiction, and Before I Found My Heart. 2004 saw Tzuke release her 13th album, The End of the Beginning, which saw her returning to a much heavier rock style on many of the tracks and the use of strings for the first time since 1981. Most of the album was played as part of her tour in October of that year. 2002 X Factor runner-up Gareth Gates joined Tzuke on stage to sing backing vocals on the track Bully. The pair were first introduced by Lucy Silvers, who had previously been one of Tzuke's backing singers and had also written material for Gates. Silvers and Tzuke also co-wrote most of the songs for Silvers' platinum-selling 2004 album Breathe In, and co-wrote 4 tracks for Silvers' 2006 album The Same Side. Tzuke also provided backing vocals. In January 2006, one of Tzuke's co-writes, Strange Love, hit the UK Top 20 for the group Vikes. Later in 2006, Tzuke provided vocals for the song Falling Down for the group Hybrid on their album I Choose Noise. In 2007, 2 other Tzuke co-writes featured on the eponymous album by the Canadian brothers Ryan Dan. Like the Sun and High were both released as singles, and the album reached number 7 in the UK album charts. In 2007, Tzuke released her 15th album, Songs 1. It was accompanied by her biggest tour in almost a decade, with her daughter Bailey Tzuke on backing vocals, and collaborations with other musicians, such as Gareth Gates on piano. March 2007 saw the download single release of Cup of Tea song from the album. She also collaborated with David P. Goods and co-wrote the song, What's It All For Laura Michelle Kelly. June 2008 saw the release of Tzuke's 16th studio album, Songs 2. The same year, Tzuke co-wrote 4 tracks with the band Morcheeba, and featured as a vocalist on 2 tracks from their Dive Deep album, including the lead single Enjoy the Ride. In October 2008, Tzuke reached number 37 in the USA Adult Contemporary chart when she provided vocals for the American jazz combo project Grand Slam on their self-titled album. The track, Captain of the Heart, was not officially released as a single, but charted through airplay. Hot on the heels of this, there was an official USA release and international download release of the single Christmas and I'm Home, which Tzuke had written with Gareth Gates in 2004. Tzuke recorded versions of the song with Hayne Cotton, the pianist with Project Grand Slam. Proceeds from sales went to the New York Ronald McDonald's charity. On July 18, 2009, Tzuke took part in a teenage cancer benefit concert at Kilworth House, Leicestershire alongside Lucy Silvers. She performed 3 tracks solo accompanied by a string quartet. She returned to the stage for an encore performance alongside Silvers, singing their co-written Place to Hide as a duet. In 2010, Tzuke released a 30-year celebratory double album titled Moon on a Mirror Ball, via a new deal with Ras Records. The collection featured over 30 songs from her back catalogue, some re-recorded songs and some new songs, one of which, If, was released as a single in April 2010, and the song Love You No More was made available as a 1-track promo single. Ras also re-released all of Tzuke's Big Moon back catalogue as downloads, and reissued her debut album Welcome to the Cruise on CD. A live album, October Road, was recorded from the tour and was released in March 2011 via Tzuke's official website. In 2011, she contributed to John Martyn's tribute album, Johnny Boy Would Have Loved This, with a recording of Martyn's Hurt in Your Heart. Discography Studio albums Live albums Personal life, Tzuke is married to her longtime musical collaborator, Paul Muggleton. The couple have 2 children, Bailey and Tallulah Muggleton Tzuke. Paul Muggleton also has 3 children by a previous marriage, including Annie Moody Muggleton. References. External links: Tzuke.com official website, Judie Tzuke on MySpace.